Um, Dennis, welcome back to my podcast or the podcast or a podcast. Um, we were just talking a moment ago, and there's definitely some things that I find that we could beneficially talk about today. But just as a beginner's thought, it's the beginning of the new year. What's currently on your mind? What do you have anything new or different that you plan on doing or shifting into going into the new year? Like, what's your New Year's resolution? I know that nowadays that's taboo. Like, you should be saying that now. It used to be a popular thing.
I have to be honest with you. My father, every New Year's, and by the way, that's my birthday.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah. In case you didn't know why you celebrate, now you do.
Only for this.
And my dad used to always say, "Yeah, what are your New Year resolutions?" And I absolutely dreaded it. I was like, "Oh, please," because conceptually, like, every day I should be starting out saying, "Okay, what am I going to do different today in order to move forward in the direction that I want?"
Right.
So I think in that respect, on the business side, I have a colleague that I'm working with who is really excited about what CashMap can do for both individuals, but we're also making it for business application.
Okay.
And so, we've got some a couple of really exciting scenarios in which, we're talking about somebody with a business with a debt of over 1.26 million.
Okay.
And it was a golf course. And at the end of 12 years, because of their strong, it's kind of a cyclical cash, but we're able to bring it all the way down to $270,000 and save them about $890,000 in interest.
Wow.
And so what's really exciting about that for me is that business owners tend to be very focused on cash flow.
Okay.
So some of the concepts that that I really want individuals to understand, business owners definitely do. And so I am looking at that exciting new year in which to be able to kind of balance both. And the big thing that I want for people to understand.
Most people don't know about your CashMap business. Before you go too far into it, explain in a nutshell before you go too far.
Sure. What CashMap does, and I would call it cash flow engineering, in which we teach people how to keep their money working for them 24/7. And as long as they're making more than they're spending and they have virtually any kind of debt, we're able, just by making changes in the timing of their spending and what they do with their money when it comes in, to dramatically reduce the amount of interest that they pay. And in effect, what we're doing is refinancing the debt in small little chunks at an effective rate that's less than 2%. So imagine getting rid of a debt in 1/3 to and half the time, getting it paid off without changing your spending.
Yeah, tax season is coming up. People are going to be getting their tax returns, and I would imagine a lot of people could benefit from investing in the service to help them straighten out their finances going into 2026. So definitely, definitely like promoting stuff like this, because especially African American community, we need stuff like this.
Well, you just hit on a really sensitive spot for me. People need to remember, you don't want a big tax refund. Never, 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 never. Never. And you know why?
Yeah, elaborate.
The government's using my money instead of me using my money.
Right.
So I actually prefer to pay a little to the government.
Yeah.
because that means I've been using their money
Right. Right.
for the bulk of the year.
How does one how do you do that in your tax forms? Do you do anything? Do you do
Well,
something new?
there's an actual IRS website in which it enables you to calculate the taxes that you're going to owe based upon your income that you've been paid and the taxes that you've already paid to date. So you can go onto this website and plug in your numbers, and it'll tell you, oh, you should be having so much withholdings in order to end up with zero. And you literally, let's say somebody's getting a bonus. Well, you can plug the bonus in, increase your withholding. Once the bonus is gone, drop it back.
So then what does that look like on your like the initial W-2 sign up or whatever? What do you say to what do you complete on there to not use your I'm so naive.
You would go to your employer, and fill out a W-4, an updated W-4. And that's what the employer uses to decide how many deductions as far as taking taxes out of someone's paycheck.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay. All right.
And if you're not sure about it, you can certainly kind of take your previous year's taxes and you'll see the various categories so that you get familiar with it, and you just plug it in on the website and it'll tell you, here's how many deductions you should take.
Was this on the official IRS website, or is this like on a different platform related to the IRS website?
No, you can just do a search. Okay. IRS withholding calculator.
Okay.
And when you pull that up, then it'll literally walk you through a step by step.
Okay.
Right. Nice. So that way, the best deal is to end up with, I'll just use an example, owing nothing or maybe owing $100.
Right. Yeah, I like that. Yeah. Right? No kidding.
I mean, I've had clients, when I had them walk through this, they ended up getting another couple $100 a month.
Yeah. Nice.
In their paycheck. They had no idea. So they can decide whether to put that in, that amount that otherwise, let's just say they didn't have much left, they can put it to savings, or they can apply it. They got some more flexibility.
Yeah. I like that. That's a message in and of itself right there. That's a hook there. That's an online hook right there.
There you go. I can't take credit because you brought it up.
Yeah. What you say?
I said I can't take credit because you brought it up.
Yeah, we get a lower credit. We're gonna talk about the lower in a sec here. But yeah, you give credit to me, I'm passing it right to God. So
there you go.
Yeah, so Cash Map Business is helping individuals essentially figure out how to to reduce debt. If they do happen to have a significant debt out there, it helps to reorganize, or you say re-engineer your finances so that your debt is reduced if you do have an existing debt. Correct?
Yeah, we show people how to, like I was just talking to one of my clients who's a dentist, and so he shared with me his spending. Well, the bulk of the spending by his wife was being done by using a debit card. Well, the idea is hold on to your cash as long as possible, but it also requires discipline. So one of the first things you're thinking about New Year's resolutions, coming back to, would be revisiting and answering this question. What are the things that are most important that you want to achieve, that if you don't, you'd want to kick yourself in the backside? Write those things down. Write down when you want to get it, how much it's going to cost, and then go back and look at your current spending and ask the question, if the things that are most important to me are going to get deferred because of my spontaneous spending today, Is that okay? And if it's not, well, then you can actually decide not to make that spend, because you now know that you're actually spending in a manner that's what's most important to you and will bring the greatest joy in your life.
Mm-hmm.
You're not saving just to save. You're saving because there's something really important you want to be able to do, so that you'll have that sense of satisfaction.
Yeah, man. A lot of people live purely on how they can get the most out of life in the present.
It's impulse, and then they wonder later why they are where they are.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with delayed gratification. I mean, let's say
Yep.
we're talking to somebody who struggles with delayed gratification, and they say, you know what, I don't want to wait. I don't want to save. What type of feedback would you get? Or let's say somebody struggles with, I don't want to say I don't want, that's a little bit harsh. Let's say somebody who struggles to manage their budget um, because they are trying to live a quote unquote fulfilled life. How would you respond to that?
Well, see, that's why I have them walk through the exercise,
Mm,
because most people have never answered that question.
mm,
Right? I mean, I
mm,
have a personal story of a neighbor who called me and said, Dennis, do you have any names of credit counselors? Because we're underwater. We're spending more than we're making,
mm,
and we don't know what to do.
mm.
And I've seen some pretty bad credit counselors, so they scare me if you don't know what to look for. And so I told them to come. I said, when can you come over? And they said, now. So they were literally at my house in 5 minutes.
What should you look for in a credit counselor? Let's go down that alley there. What should you not? This is a great alley to go down, by the way. Is what are some red flags with regards to credit counselors, and what are some things that are signs that you're dealing with somebody who's actually going to benefit? What's your objectives?
Well, there's a couple of firsthand experiences that I can tell you. A credit counselor told an elderly woman who had no control over her spending, don't worry about paying your credit cards off if you're tight, because it's unsecured, and so the bank can't do anything. Wrong. This person was on the verge of losing her house because she ignored Capital One.
Because they put a
And
lien on her house.
they put a lien on her house, and they were ready to take her to court and take the house. And with the help of a couple of people in my circle of influence at that time, we were able to find a lender, higher interest cost, that was willing to give her a second chance.
Mm,
So literally 2 days before the court date, we were able to come to an arrangement and pay it off.
mm.
Right? So that's one example.
Okay. But if I'm looking for a credit counselor, and what are some what are some distinct things that let me know that this person might be trying to scam me?
Well, one of the things that I have found with some credit counselors is they will tell you that the only option you have is to, in effect, write off the debt, and then they're going to work with an attorney to get that done.
Right off
And
the debt. Okay.
yeah, to make the debt in effect, so that the company won't go after you anymore. And they tell you that it's going to take a hit on your credit.
Mm-hmm.
And then they tell you the fees with the attorney and what to do.
Mm-hmm.
I've had that happen in a couple of cases in which I was able to look at their situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't. And I again, this is not my area of what I've spent my time focusing on. It's just things that I've learned over time. So, and in this particular person's case, this person was a pharmacist. She had many options. She did not have to write everything off. All she needed to do was to kind of consolidate the debt over a longer time frame for like 5 years, so that it took a less chunk out of her paycheck, and she was able to pay it off. But they were going to charge her like $4,800 to do this, and it was going to ruin her credit, and for absolutely no reason whatsoever.
Okay, let's go down this rabbit hole. Let me ask you a question, because I've been in this arena. I've talked to a credit counselor before. Let me ask you. Let me see if you know the answer to this question. Is it better if I owe creditors? Is it better to pay it off, or is it better to dispute the credit?
Well, those are two entirely different situations. I mean, I've certainly seen people who decide to dispute it on the basis that the company should never have lent them the money because they knew that they couldn't afford to pay it back. I've seen that route.
Yeah, but isn't it better just to pay it off and then just deal with
for myself, this is a very personal decision, but for many people, they have no emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So if they put everything they have to that debt, if anything happens, they're hooped. Right. They got to go back and borrow again. So it's a balance between putting dollars to it and putting money aside to start building up that emergency fund.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay.
And you bring up a really good point. That's one of the things whether I'm talking to a business or individuals, in which I'm basically showing them there's another way to be able to get ahead of this without touching your cash that you have set aside. Right? So in other words, again, if you're disciplined and you're making more than you're spending, and the third thing would be, we do need to get your credit score up. But if you can say yes to those three things, then there's another path to follow that will enable you to accelerate getting rid of the debt without touching your cash reserves, be it an individual or a business. So in other words, if I knew that I could, in effect, have a net effect of borrowing at 2% or less versus pulling money out of my savings that I might be earning 3.5%. And so that's the other issue that people, I find frequently, they leaving their cash sitting in a conventional bank earning 0.01%.
Okay.
You don't want to do that. There are so many options out there in which you can get, 2.5%, 3.5% on your savings and have it be secure.
Okay.
So why would I take money that's earning let's just say 3%, versus borrowing at an effective rate that's going to be under 2%?
Okay. All right.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is that am I being helpful?
Yeah, yes. Yeah, for the most part. I think I sort of get the gist of what you're talking about. Is the recommendation not to pay everything off at once, but rather make sure that while you're paying things off, that you're making sure that you're adding money to something that's yielding 2 to 3% in an account while you're paying off things that it might be a bad decision. Like let's in this particular from this particular question with regards to whether it's good to pay off debt or just to dispute it. You're saying, I think I hear you saying it's good to pay off debt, but don't spend all your money on debt. Pay it down, but also have an emergency fund. That's what I think I hear you say.
That's what you're hearing me say.
Okay. All right.
I mean,
Yeah.
you have somebody has. I mean, the challenge that we always have, right? We're talking in general terms,
Mhm.
right? So, you know, to actually dispute the debt, you know, you're now looking at a situation where, in effect, you're so far over your head that you can't see any way out.
Mhm.
And so, what I do does not, frankly, focus on that segment of our population.
Ah, okay.
That's not my expertise. So I'm just simply sharing personal learnings that I've had over a course of time.
Yeah.
I would,
So
right?
this is a good. This is good. Um, so really, you're focused on individuals who have decent credit, who earn who are in some ways operate in some type of profession with the, you know, for lack of a better word, significant amount of income as it relates to their outcome.
No, absolutely
No?
not. Absolutely not.
Okay.
Um, I I have a client. They live in North Carolina.
Okay.
No, actually, in North Carolina or South Carolina. I'm trying to remember which one. Anyway, she's a homeschooling mom, but she is tenacious with watching her dollars. And when their bills are paid at the end of the month, yeah, we're generally looking about $400 to $500 is left. And they have a small line of credit that I've taught them how to use effectively. That's only $7,000.
Okay.
Right. So the issue, and then I can tell you I've had clients that made over $250,000,
Mhm.
or even 30 grand a month, and they have no savings and they have no retirement.
Mhm.
So the issue isn't how much money you make.
Mhm.
It's the cash management skills that you've developed to
Mhm.
make the most of the dollars that you have.
Yeah. Do you agree with the statement? It's not how much you make; it's how much you keep. Then I would imagine you fall right in line.
Totally.
Um,
And
that is
so
more. Oh, go ahead.
that's much more important. Yeah, you're spot on.
Um, that's inevitably what you're trying to help individuals. I mean, do is
Well,
uh,
individuals and businesses. The numbers are just
and,
bigger, but it's the same thing. It's the same process.
but you don't fit your services are it's, you know, what is the credit score that a person has to have in order to be able to work with your services?
Ideally, it should be about 700.
700. So that's pretty
Yeah.
good. That's
Yeah.
yeah. So that individual's already got a decent level of money management. They just have high debt. Like, yeah, like when you talk when you got a 700 credit score, you have a relatively okay. You've been responsible with finances for most of your life, or at least during, you know, at that score. You know, you're really dealing with someone who somehow got you know, who's managed debt, but maybe hasn't managed debt effectively. But at least they have the
Well,
capacity to manage
sometimes,
debt. You know what I mean?
yeah. Well, I have one client right now, as a matter of fact, where she's very disciplined,
Mm-hmm.
but her credit score is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So when
Okay.
I asked her what's going on, we found
Mm-hmm.
out that they weren't the it wasn't being reported accurately on her credit report. So once that got cleaned up, her
Mm-hmm.
credit score went through the roof.
Yeah.
So there are
Okay.
these anomalies, but
Mm-hmm.
as a general rule, just by having this conversation with someone, it it comes to light really fast. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, I don't, if somebody's telling me, oh yeah, I'm doing this, I know this, I know that, and I say, wow, you sound really on top of it, and you say, oh, my credit score is 620, something doesn't sound right,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? That's you need to go see out what the problem is. Now, again, I don't do credit repair, but just after years of talking to people, I can just pick it up really fast, right? Just by the way they talk about how they manage their money. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get it.
I mean, you being a therapist, you know what I'm talking about. After you've talked to counseled so many people.
Yeah, you could sniff what actually might be happening without having all the details, right? Yeah,
Exactly.
I get it. I get it.
Right? It's kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I want to shift gears here a little bit. Part of the interesting story is what you do. And part of the other part of the interesting story is what makes you who you are. We had the opportunity to talk a couple of months ago about your spirituality. That's definitely a strong connect point with me because I try to unashamedly, speak in that vein of spirituality in as many aspects of my life as humanly possible. I find our conversations interesting because we don't have the exact same beliefs. I don't think. I mean, I could gander a little bit that our beliefs are not exact, but I find I find a lot of what you say very inspiring with regards to how you describe what it means to be a believer, or I don't know how you would frame that, but what Christianity looks like, or what does it mean to walk with Christ? You mentioned earlier in our conversations the two big words here, probably transformation of the heart. Can you elaborate off of that a little bit? What does it mean to be a believer in Christ? And how's that connected to the term transformation of the heart?
Okay. So, yeah, thanks for the opportunity of sharing. If you were to look at Ephesians chapter 5, verse 1, and it might be verse 2 also, it says, matter of fact, I'll just, for your listeners, I'll pull it up directly.
Oh yeah, I'm a Bible thumper too. I got my Bible sitting right here.
Ephesians chapter 5. It says, verse 1, therefore imitate God like dearly loved children. Live your life with love, following the example of Christ, who loved us and gave himself for us. He was a sacrificial offering that smelled sweet to God. Now, because of my background in HR and just being an executive over time, one of the biggest problems that I run into, be it an employee or being a supervisor, somebody comes and talks to me, and the first thing goes across my mind is, did you ask yourself the question before you opened your mouth over what the impact of your words were going to have to the listener, and was it going to bring a positive outcome? Now, I had a couple of other executives tell me, when I tell them that that's what runs through my head, they said, Dennis, that's not normal. People just don't even think like that. I said, right. I don't understand why not. I mean, and so kind of what I'm saying here is that if, number one, if we believe that God loves all of his children, and if we believe that he wants, as Jesus said, I came to give you life more abundantly.
Yeah.
And then we even look at the Old Testament and the promises given Israel. And he says they were good for 1,000 generations, in which, or like Jeremiah says, I want a prosperous life for you. I want a good life. Well, then if I'm being asked to imitate God like dearly loved children, then that's what the influence I want to have on every person I come in contact with. But what I find in contrast is, instead, if you ask the question, and I have done this many times, and 9 out of 10 times, here's what I get. If I ask somebody, can you put yourself in that person's shoes? Right? And what impact would this situation have on your life if you were in that situation? And the response I get back immediately is, can't put myself in their shoes. Not my issue. Can't go there.
Yeah.
Conversation stops. So for me, when I discovered at least 2 verses in which it says, God says, I will replace your stony heart.
Yeah.
I take stony heart to mean a heart with no empathy.
Yes.
Okay? I'm unable to care or feel for the situation that this person's having. I'm going to do what I want to do so I can get what I want to get.
Yeah.
And if it hurts you, that's your problem, because I'm only thinking about what I'm going to get.
Yeah.
Right? And so what I have come to realize is, and again, if you want me to read one of the verses, I can, where it actually says, give me permission. I will transform your heart so that you will love me with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, and you will follow my statutes.
Give me the scripture. Yes.
Okay. The first one is in Deuteronomy chapter 30.
Okay.
Okay. And you go down to verse 6.
Okay.
It says, then the Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants so that you love the Lord your God with all your mind and with all your being, in order that you may live. And then verse 8, but you will change and obey the Lord's voice and do all his commandments that I'm commanding you right now. So there's one example. Now, I was talking to one of my Jewish friends and I asked him,
I said, I love it. Okay.
I said, do you believe in grace? He was really animated. Absolutely not. Moses tells us that the laws that God has given, it's right at hand, that we can do it. It's not hard to keep.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, oh, well, take a look at this verse. He read it. He was stunned. He said, this is beautiful. And then I just loved what he told me. He says, Dennis, if you knew Hebrew, it's even more beautiful and meaningful. You must learn Hebrew, and we could go pray together in synagogue together. I loved it. So that's, so that's one verse.
Yeah.
And then there's another one in Ezekiel. It's chapter 11, where it's virtually saying the same thing in verse 19. And it says, I will give them a single heart, and I will put a new spirit in them. I will remove the stony hearts from their bodies and give them hearts of flesh, so that they may follow my regulations and carefully observe my case laws. They will be my people, and I will be their God.
That is Ezekiel 19 and verse.
No, Ezekiel 11, verse 19 and 20. Now, I take those 2 verses, and then I'm reminded what Jesus said when the Pharisees came and asked him about the law. And he said, the law can be summarized in just 2 things. Loving the Lord thy God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind, right? He's quoting Moses and what's in the 10 Commandments. And second, loving your neighbor as yourself.
Okay. I got a case study. I've got a client. I'm not going to say their names nor disclose the particular details. But we were right in the vein of this. I'll get a mental health plus spiritual counselor, which is not uncommon for me to do if a client chooses to go down that rabbit hole with me. And they were struggling to They were struggling to have a desire for what God wanted for them. Let me put that caseload on you. Let's just brainstorm this a little bit. There's anonymity, so nobody knows who they are. But they were struggling to stay in their heart. It's like, I'm struggling to want what God wants for me, and I have I have a desire to do things that may not be pleasing to God. How do I get this transformation? Again, going back to that word.
Can I give you a real life example of someone who's gone through this that just happened to me in the last month?
Yes, before.
Okay. There's somebody who I met on Zoom. Who he's an insurance executive,
Mm.
and a rough background. Both of his parents, he's white, he's blue collar Italian,
Yeah.
lives in Connecticut, and so one of his parents dealt drugs. They both took drugs,
Mm-hmm.
and number one, when I told him when we first started to talk, and by the way, we met on a networking group. And the strangest thing he told me, he said, we're only in the group of four people for 15 minutes. And he said, there's something about you that's different.
Mm-hmm.
I got to follow up with you. And so we did, and developed a friendship. But the point being is, he started with a really rough background. And when I told him one day, number one, that God understands that you didn't choose your parents. You didn't choose where you were born. He gets it. He accepts it. There's no issues of guilt there at all, because
Right.
you had no choice. And then as we began talking, he started talking about how his and his wife's relationship were very rocky. But one particular day, we started in the office, and he was showing me some of the renovations that he made to his home. He was talking about some of the policies that he'd closed on. It was making over $1 million a year now.
Mm-hmm.
Then he hops in his Jaguar, continue the Zoom conversation, shares with me how he's bought a Porsche for himself as well as his son. And then he drops the bombshell. He says, my wife's ruined my life.
Mm-hmm.
Thinking to myself, what do you mean your wife's ruined your life? After what you just shared and showed me, your life is not what I would call ruined. And I asked him, did you tell your wife this? He says, yeah, I told her. I said, so then I stopped and I said, well, why did you marry her? He says, well, I didn't really have much of a mom. And there's this simple beauty and naivety about my wife when I met her in high school, and she had a rough background also. And so I was really looking for somebody to cook for me, clean for me, have sex with me, have children, and just have a nice life. So I said, have you tried putting yourself in your wife's shoes? And I asked him earlier, does he have empathy? He said, absolutely not. I said, well, why not? He said, because I had a rough life myself. Everything I got, I was on the streets, and I got it by my own. So if I got it on my own, then you better get it on your own. So no, I have no empathy. And the idea of loving your neighbor as yourself, or putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, actually, that's what it was, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes, that
Mm-hmm.
usually means that you're going to take something away from me at my expense.
Mm-hmm.
I have no interest in it. So I asked him, take a couple of days and try putting yourself in your wife's shoes. If she was, if your experience was hers and your experience was her. Well, next week we got back together again. He said, Dennis, I just can't do it. I cannot put myself in her shoes. It struck me like a ton of bricks. And then I said, the beauty of what God does is transformational. he wants what's best for all of us and all of his children. And he wants us to be a part of that process. So he's the one who will place the desire in our heart to actually care about people. He's the one who will give us empathy. He, in turn, will also give us the right words for what somebody needs to hear at this point in their life, as well as what we can appropriately do to enrich someone's life.
What does that look like to get to that point where God transforms you, though?
So that's where I'm coming to. So when he heard that picture made sense to him, and he said, I want that to be my experience, because I've never seen that before.
Okay.
And so I said, well, that's you just giving him permission.
Mm.
The next week comes around. He tells me, Dennis, Stephanie and I, we've had it. We're going to get a divorce. We're going to go through mediation. And my comment to him was this: I just ask you one thing, that as you go about speaking with your wife, remember she is a daughter of God who wants the best for her. So if you guys are going to split, do it with that spirit in mind. He says, okay. One more week. He texts me, Dennis, something really big happened. He gets me on the phone. He says, a little over an hour before we're supposed to start the process, she sent me this tender text. And it just touched my heart. Hadn't gotten anything like that from her since high school. I went and told her I appreciated it. She says, well, if you really do, cancel that appointment.
Mm.
He does. He then said, which blew my mind, he said, Dennis, I could not get your voice out of my head all week long. I kept hearing, treat my wife as if she's a daughter of God who wants the best for her.
Mm.
He then said, for the first time in my life, I felt empathy for my wife. And I saw what a jerk I was in the way that I spend minimal time, in the way that I speak to her. And I saw myself in a way that I'd never seen it before. Larry, I've never had that kind of experience before. And so then the other part he said is, he goes, Dennis, I'm a Trumpster. I don't believe in giving help to anybody. Here you are, a black man who I can tell is a progressive. We don't mix. And yet, I consider you one of the best of two friends I have in my life. And I've never met you.
That's a beautiful thing.
Right?
Amen.
So then
Praise God.
The next week rolls around. Kind of thinking, okay, this sounds really good, but what's we start on Zoom.
Yeah.
And I can't explain this, but this guy looked different.
Mm.
He had a calmness about him, a chill.
Yeah.
And the other thing about him was, usually when we're talking, it's every other sentence, F this, F that.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, it's less.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything to him. I'm just observing.
Yeah.
I'd never seen anything like it before. And so then we had Christmas seasons, so we couldn't get together. And I asked, how's it going? It's great. I go, wow. 3 weeks. It's holding. He's a happy man.
Yeah. Amen. And
all that it was I saw those verses come to life in this guy. I can't tell you how or why.
Okay.
I just know what I know and see the difference that it's made. And I would argue that this was a contrast. By the way, He doesn't know what church I attend. He doesn't care what church I attend.
Right. He just got healed. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm just simply caring about him.
Right. A fundamental, non-denominational, nothing to do with denomination, nothing to do with doctrinal points. Fundamental premise around empathetic relationship between one another, which is the epitome of what you're talking about, right?
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I mean, it just blew me away. And so then that's where it occurred to me, where you have wherever there's a focus on belief at the expense of people,
I love it.
becomes divisive. Like, for example, that's why in America, right, you're told you don't talk politics, you don't talk religion, right? Because you're arguing over belief at the expense of
that's a bar.
Right? Look at Islam, the sectarian wars, all over differences of belief at the expense of people.
Oh, yeah. I love it.